Me as well.
Hello everyone and welcome to this interview with Tim. Hi Tim. Tim's from Thrustmaster, and as we heard yesterday, pretty awesome announcement, but I have a couple of questions.
Sure, shoot, I'm ready for them.
Amazing. So you announced the Viper TQS yesterday.
Yep.
Where did that project start, and why did you choose that particular product?
So it started a long time ago. I mean, we've sort of as we mentioned a little bit, or Michelle mentioned a little bit during the actual seminar itself, it started even before the HOTAS Warthog with the Cougar. So the Cougar HOTAS set, which we had before, was a super popular throttle. It's the most ergonomic throttle essentially in any US military jet. So that's why it's such a popular and in-demand SKU or throttle specifically, throttle quadrant specifically for the community. So because the Cougar was so old and essentially stopped being manufactured, there's been just built up, pent up demand for that same throttle. So with the F-16 essentially featuring this exact same throttle within the jet, within the cockpit, that's where that idea started. 3-4 years ago, it sort of became a real thing. Started working with the US Air Force, started working with basically our entire beta testing team, real F-16 pilots, retired F-16 pilots, and just basically trying our best to replicate the throttle, but also take as much other elements out of the F-16 cockpits and push them all into one perfect panel.
Amazing. Yeah. And so obviously you've packed it real full of features. Which one puts the biggest smile on your face?
I mean, I love the just visually, I love the landing gear module. The fact that it lights up red. It's not always lit up red, of course, but just the fact that it sort of just shoots out. It's an exact replica of the one you'll find inside an actual F-16 jet. Amazing. So at least to me, that's the one that pops off the panel for me.
Very cool. Amazing. And so the throttle itself is an exact replica, size. It's a one-to-one replica of the real F-16. But the panel it comes with, obviously you've just mentioned that you're trying to get as much of that F-16 cockpit into one panel. How do you decide on what features go into that and what ones you leave out?
I mean, I don't want to overpromise necessarily, but it really was just a matter of literally let's get everything from the cockpit into one panel. Everything that's really important. We already have, of course, all of the stick-based stuff covered. We have the throttle itself covered. And so now it's basically just a matter of cherry-picking all the different pieces from an F-16 cockpit and putting them onto that one panel. And we feel like we really did get almost everything, all of the iconic pieces, but also all of the functional pieces that that somebody who understands how an F-16 actual cockpit works will know basically what each function does.
And so you mentioned yesterday in the announcement, it's a balance between functionality and reality, right? Yeah. So for the end user, for us, it's a really great product.
Yes.
Were there anything that you wanted to include that didn't, or anything that didn't make the panel or the product?
Good question. I'd say from within the F-16 cockpit, the one thing that we still are lacking, and I guess we've already heard it from a few people here today, because of course all of the F-16 fans come out of the woodwork and come straight to us and start talking about it. The MFT Cougar panels, which we have, which are the same thing as in an F-16 cockpit, we have the button functionality from around it, but we're not screen makers.
Yeah.
And so we don't have the screen within it. And by doing so, we would, number one, have to become experts in screen making and make it to the same quality standards that we have everything else in our combat line. But number two, it would triple the price of the panel. So we really weren't able to, I'd say in terms of what you'd find in an F-16 cockpit that we don't currently make, that's really the one missing part, is having some kind of HUD-style data within the F-16 panel, within the F-16 panels, or Cougar panels is what we call them, MFTs.
Yeah, and so you alluded to the quality of the product, and having seen it today and had a real feel, it feels like like it's connected. It's connected to an aircraft. It's really mechanical.
Exactly,
so without making it so expensive, how have you managed to make that mechanically feel like it's connected to something?
Well, I mean, not to speak too much for the R&D team, but we have literally 33 years of experience of making flight sim hardware, at least 20 of which are making this replica grade stick and throttle type hardware, which is metallic, but also of course uses a number of pieces, replicates what you'll find inside a real jet, works with the Air Force, works with the Navy. Sorry, we work with the Air Force, we work with the Navy to make it as authentic as possible, not just in look, but in feel as well. And that metallic heaviness, that metallic true machine feel is something that we pride ourselves on, and we feel like we do a pretty good job, as you're saying as well. It's got that smoothness, but it also has that heaviness and that mechanic feeling to it. The same way you'd find inside a real jet. Of course, simplified a little bit for gaming, but yeah, we get it as close as we can.
Yeah, and talking about those F-16 diehard fans that come out of the woodwork when you announce a product like this, it's a real tick in the box for those guys as well.
Absolutely, yeah, no question about it.
And because of the F-16, one of my favorite things that makes me smile is feeling the resistance, and then you've got to chunk it and then pull it right back again.
Exactly.
It's like the real thing. So I imagine that'll be a big crowd.
Yeah, that's the first thing everybody comes and does. They're like, how does the chunk work?
Yeah. Show me the chunk.
Yeah.
And so the product's endorsed by the US Air Force, and you've worked closely with
by as well. Yeah.
So how did that relationship start, and how have you utilized that through production?
I mean, so the actual relationship with the US Air Force started before I started with the company a long time ago. So of course the HOTAS Warthog is licensed by the US Air Force, so it's basically just our expertise in flight sim. They realize that a lot of I don't want to speak for them necessarily, but a lot of people come out of gaming before they get into real world equivalents. You'll see the same thing in civil piloting, you'll see the same thing in fighter piloting, same thing in driving often. So they are willing to work with the best companies out there to make stuff as authentic as possible for their licensing needs. We treat that partnership, that relationship as with utmost respect. We work really closely with them. We follow all the sort of formalities of having to work with a military organization or government organization, and I think that they really appreciate that working relationship, and more importantly, they appreciate the final product and how well the community responds to it.
Well, that's really positive, and I suppose it helps, working with someone that has a lot of access to F-16s, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. They know what they're doing. They can teach us, and then we can sort of pretend like we also know what they're doing too.
And so, obviously, you've got a couple of modules here to show, and they're looking and feeling really great. So that would indicate maybe that we're fairly close to getting our real hands on some products.
We are, yeah, we truly are close. I mean, we announced the official dates, we'll call them, during the seminar yesterday. August 23rd, people will be able to start pre-ordering them. Okay. October 11th, everybody will be able to get their hands on them for the first time. But like you mentioned, these are production part of the production run, essentially. Right. What we want to make sure is, in time for October 11th, that this is going to be available for everyone, as opposed to sort of a regional rollout in certain countries first and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So really, it's just a logistics question at this point. Production is running. It's a matter of getting the shipping out everywhere as quickly as possible in order to deliver for October 11th.
Well, that's really exciting, and actually, it's so relatively close, I think.
It is.
And considering that you've got them here, and you've come such a long way for that one product.
Yeah, exactly. It's been a very long journey, and I know that these guys, especially for October 11th, can't come fast enough, but they're so happy just to have the word out there and see the community reaction.
That's amazing. And what sort of price points are you looking to put there?
So at least for the Viper throttle, we have 3 different price points. We have the mission pack, which is the throttle and the panel together. That's at $529.99, speaking US dollars. For the panel by itself is $249.99, and the throttle by itself is $349.99. And roughly equivalent in euros. I don't know about in British pounds.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean that's a really fair price point, right?
Yeah.
You get all of that product for around the.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's we have to remember that this is a licensed product, so licensing obviously makes a difference. This is a product that has Thrustmaster manufacturing expertise in it. It has that metallic replica, not just feeling, but actually build quality, and it has mass market essentially availability. You can get this on Amazon. You can get this in maybe not in Best Buy, but on BestBuy.com.
Yeah.
You can get this in all the different major retailers. So we have to take that sort of into account of how available this product is going to be to the flight sim community wherever they shop.
Amazing.
So that affects price. Is basically my point.
Of course. So having a real heritage in hardware flight simulation. You mentioned the Cougar, which just seeing that kind of brings back all the memories,
of course,
right?
Yeah.
So what can we almost expect from Thrustmaster in the future?
So the future is really exciting for us. I mean, we're gonna be actually showing off tonight behind closed doors, but we're gonna be showing off what we're sort of considering the future of Thrustmaster.
Okay.
It's gonna be there won't be any public information, let's say, for at least a couple more months on this piece of hardware, but we're really focused on sort of, without saying too much, the hub or the center of the future of our ecosystem, and that's going to be focused on essentially a couple of different products that will really pull together the customizability of simmers, cockpits, customizability of stiffness and precision, and basically giving people much more modability to their own feel of all of their hardware in the future. So I probably already said too much, but it's basically going to be one piece of hardware, beginning as one piece of hardware, multiple pieces of hardware in the future that gives simmers what they're already doing behind the scenes, which is modding, which is customizing, which is opening up the parts and fiddling with it. And we're basically going to want to lean into that community sentiment and offer them the ability to do that, and sort of our blessing to do that as well.
And there's no other place where you get lots of those people that take something great and modify that and develop that than we've got at Expo.
Exactly.
So,
FlightSimExpo, I mean, it's the heart of the flight sim community, and this is where all those guys are. And we love hearing from them. We love talking to them, and super excited to be here.
It's amazing stuff.
Yeah.
So keep it FS Elite for your next announcement. We'll be very quick on announcing that with you guys at Thrustmaster.
For sure.
Tim, thank you so much for your time today.
First units.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jordan.
Thank you for watching.
See you guys.